Chapter 321, Dragonlance and Dragonnet. The golden dragon that lived deep within the dark forest was a super-rank magical creature that had evolved 3 times. Han Shao had clearly understood his strength from the previous time. The golden dragons were hailed the race with the strongest physical bodies out of the dragons. The aura of a rank 3 golden dragon was steady, and as it moved its enormous body, rays of lightning struck the green dragon and Kelt. The commander of the Redbud Knights, Kelt, showed a hint of surprise on the back of the green dragon when he saw the golden dragon rush over fiercely. As bolts of lightning struck, the green dragon beneath him raised its head and breathed out, redirecting the scorching lightning to one side, not actually taking any sort of actual damage. The golden dragons were hailed the dragon race with the strongest physical bodies. Perhaps it was due to the strength of their physical bodies that resulted in magic not being an area that they specialized in. Even the thunder attacks shot out by this thrice evolved golden dragon was merely equivalent to the attack of a thunder adept mage. It wasn't hard for the green dragon, also a super rank magical creature, to defend against this level of attack. A mere exhale was able to stop the bouncing thunder attack. The green dragon had a large physique and was a twice evolved super rank magical creature. In contrast to the golden dragon, the green dragon specialized more in magic. Although it didn't have a dragon body that was as hard as iron like the golden dragon, its magic was able to supplement some of its physical disadvantages. Kelt slowly took out a thin silver dragon lance from the back of the green dragon. He smiled and pointed at the golden dragon from afar. Honored golden dragon, I have already taken your treasures. If you want to take them back, then you'll have to see if you have the ability to. Pitiful human, you have offended me. I will make you regret having those greedy thoughts. The golden dragon was closing in on them and roared loudly, directly pressing down its huge body on Kelt. The golden dragon clearly recognized that with the existence of the green dragon, he couldn't think about killing Kelt with only magic attacks. Thus, he decided to use the golden dragon's powerful body to teach them a painful lesson. Hee, foolish golden dragon, you are just asking to suffer. Kelt raised his dragon lance with a laugh as silver fighting ore condensed at the tip of the gun. Then Kelt charged towards the golden dragon using the momentum of the green dragon. Halfway through, Kelt suddenly put down the dragon lance and flung something towards the sky. All of a sudden, a black dragon net of sharp blades suddenly came down over the golden dragon. The golden dragon, who charged over, had his attention completely focused on the dragon lance in Kelt's hands. He didn't think that Kelt would suddenly throw out a dragon net. Due to the lack of appropriate defense, he was unable to avoid it and was immediately firmly entangled. Sharp little blades hung all over the black dragon net and quick tightened the moment the golden dragon was caught. The more the golden dragon moved, the tighter the black dragon net became. Meanwhile, little blades stabbed merely into the muscles of the golden dragon in between the golden dragon's scales with ringing sounds. Suddenly, a powerful magic pulse passed through the black dragon net and rays of silver light exploded from the black strings. This proved to be of marvelous effect against the dragon shape-shifting in order to escape. The moment the golden dragon was hit by the magic pulses, he immediately felt that his entire body grew numb, causing him to be unable to use his natural talents. I already told you not to make things hard on yourself. This dragon net was refined for me by 3 alchemists. Don't think about escaping from it even if you are a golden dragon. Kelt slowly approached the golden dragon with a peaceful smile. He aimed the dragon lance in his hand at the large eye of the golden dragon within the black net. Although the golden dragon had a powerful physical body, their eyes were as fragile as any others. The golden dragon roared tragically, despicable human, fight me fair and square if you have guts to. Yes, humans rely on our brain, Kelt said with a smile. He sized up the golden dragon with interest and teased in a manner as if he was talking to himself. The entire body of a rank 3 golden dragon is a treasure. How should I deal with you? Should I kill you and take your dragon tendons, bones, eyes and core? Or should I make you one of my magical pets? I already have a green dragon. This is really troubling. Despicable human, if you cannot defeat me justly, then even if you kill me, the proud golden dragon will not bow in defeat. Even at this moment, the golden dragon still spoke loudly without any fear of death. Kelt had been smiling, but his expression immediately turned cold upon hearing this. He waved the dragon lance in his hand in front of the dragon's eye as large as a fist and said, I don't have too much patience and don't want trouble. I'll give you a final chance. Form a slave contract with me immediately. Otherwise die. I will not form a contract with a human as despicable and sinister as you. Just give up. The golden dragon struggled fiercely in the giant black net, causing the small blades hanging off the threads to cut deeply into his his flesh through the gaps between his scales, resulting in a small drizzle of blood. Han Shao had already seen that the golden dragon was very powerful last time in the territory of the Lord of the Flames. However, the black dragon net was something created by 3 alchemists specifically to use against dragons, something that had been brought out by the commander of one of the 10 largest night troops on the continent was naturally not going to be something ordinary. Even though the golden dragon struggled with his life on the line, it wasn't enough to improve his situation and merely worsen the wounds on his body. "Alright then, die," Kelt yelled softly, then thrusted the dragon lance into the gap between the golden dragon's scales. Since the golden dragon continuously moved its body, the black dragon net tightened around him even more, worsening his injuries. Even so, Kelt was unable to easily pierce his eyes. That's why he chose to attack the dragon's body instead and stabbed into the golden dragon's body over and over again. No matter how strong the golden dragon's physical body was, it was unable to endure attacks like this without the ability to fight back. A mist of blood seeped out from his body as howls of pain rang out. "Despicable and cowardly human, you will definitely pay the price." The golden dragon continued to curse even as he howled in pain. "I can't see how you're going to make me pay the price. Pitiful lizard, your long life has finally reached its end today." Kelt chuckled softly without stopping the dragon lance in his hand. After pulling it out of the dragon's body with spray of blood, he stabbed down once more. As he watched the bloodied golden dragon, his eyes were filled with an excitement that he found difficult to hide. He subconsciously licked his lips as if he was enjoying this sort of moment very much. Suddenly a light pierced through the sky and slipped into the black dragon net agilely like a fish. The huge dragon net was slowly ripped to shreds with whooshing sounds by the movement of the light. "Who is it actually daring to stick your nose in my business?" Kelt frowned. The excitement disappeared from his body like the receding tide as he snorted coldly while glancing around with sparkling eyes. Roar. Under the help of the black ray of light, the black dragon net was ripped apart, no longer able to entrap the golden dragon. With a ghastly roar that was furious to the extreme, the golden dragon lumbered towards the green dragon while bits of ripped dragon netting hung off of him. The golden dragon used his sharp claws and fangs to rip and bite at the green dragon as well as Kelt without any fear of death. Due to needing use the dragon lance to pierce the golden dragon, Kelt was actually very close to the golden dragon. The freed golden dragon immediately entangled with the green dragon. His immensely wounded body actually invoked the golden dragon's savageness. The golden dragon howled desolately during its maniacal attacks. Kelt was the enemy that the golden dragon nursed a bone-deep hatred against. Unfortunately, Kelt was also extremely agile. He kept on changing positions on the green dragon's large body, so the golden dragon's swipes with his claws were unable to find their mark at all. He merely caused the green dragon to continuously scream out with pain. Han Shao had been hiding on the top of an ancient tree. He gazed at the intense battle of dragons above with a cold gaze. Surging dragon auras caused unending rumbling explosions to sound in the surrounding ancient trees and hill. A ray of black light circled around the golden dragon before swiftly entering Han Shao's body. The yin demon slowly drifted out again and focused on another ambusher, the giant silver ape that had appeared at the territory of the ruler of the flames. The giant silver ape had appeared when the golden dragon had been trapped by the dragon net. The 4-meter-tall giant silver ape was incomparable in size to the enormous dragons in the sky. As it laid in the bushes, it hid its presence most excellently. At this moment the giant silver ape was drooling with the liquid of greed as it fixed its blood-red eyes on the battle in the skies as if it was preparing to join in at any moment. Super rank magical creatures were able to consume each other's bodies in order to digest the other's magical core to strengthen the devourer directly or even evolve. Super rank magical creatures of the same level normally wouldn't fight to the death, but if they had the chance to kill each other, these savage magical creatures definitely would not hesitate. To the giant silver ape, the two dragons in an intense battle in the sky represented a potential chance for it to quickly evolve, particularly since both of the dragons that were fighting to the death were a bit crazed. He knew that sooner or later one of them would be unable to stand the assault from the other anymore and fall from the sky. That was when his chance would arrive. Chapter 322 The green dragon's crystal core roared. The green dragon madly twisted its body, a long mournful cry resounding from its mouth. The golden dragon had desperately wrapped his body around the green dragon. Well known for their bodily strength, the latter was obviously not an opponent for a golden dragon. Not to mention that the golden dragon had already evolved 3 times. He wasn't afraid of death at all, as his ferocity burst out upon being wounded. The golden dragon and green dragon were locked in close quarter combat. The former took advantage of his steely body, hook-like claws and enormous maw full of stark white teeth to leave grievous wounds on the green dragon that reached the bone. The scales on the green dragon's body were effective against human arrows, but could not withstand the force of the madly clawing and tearing of the golden dragon that was a rank above it. Due to the distance between the 2 super rank creatures, the green dragon was unable to find an opening to retreat and utilize its powerful magic attacks. Because the 2 dragons were tearing each other so intensely, Kelt couldn't even stand firmly on the green dragon's back, let alone release any attacks. Despicable human! I've warned you already. You will pay the price. The golden dragon let out a roar of insanity. With a swing of his shining golden tail, the miserable green dragon was thrown back. The green dragon was already woozy and flew straight downwards onto a distant hill. The huge body looked like a green ribbon rapidly falling amidst its howling. The giant silver ape remained in his hiding place, its blood-red pupils stared fixedly at the descending green dragon. Waiting until the green dragon had almost hit the ground, the fur on its body suddenly stood erect as it made a beeline towards the hill like a bolt of silver lightning. Rumbled out, the green dragon's massive body smashed into the hill, flattening the 10-meter tall hill and making a rumbling sound that shook the ground. The golden dragon was dripping with blood and created a rain of red liquid. He stretched out a bit in the sky, springing his iron hook-like claws down upon the caterwauling green dragon below. The injured green dragon spat out several green puffs of dragon's breath with a strange sour stench. The golden dragon hadn't completely dived down and suddenly staggered like a drunkard, changing directions upon coming into contact with the dragon's breath. He now landed on a small hill 10 meters away from the green dragon. A silver bolt of lightning abruptly shot out from the shrubbery. The giant silver ape used his sharp knife-like claws to assault the green dragon and the golden dragon's steed. His 2 claws proved to be incredibly sharp, as nearly half of his arms penetrated the green dragon's body. The strike was obviously very painful for the green dragon to deal with. Its huge body thrashed violently, destroying all the trees in the surrounding radius of dozens meters. The giant silver ape also rolled together with the green dragon, since his 2 claws were still within the latter's body. However, the toughness of the giant silver ape's body was astonishing. He immediately pulled out his claws when he reacted. His entire body transforming into a silver bolt, he aimed right at the green dragon's eyes, trying to blind it before slowly torturing it to death. Whoosh! A silver dragon lance suddenly stabbed forwards, nailing the giant silver ape in the chest with an audible sound. The madly charging ape was hindered by the dragon lance's blow. He let out a shrill raging howl and swung his claws fiercely, slicing the lance into 2 pieces. Only the tip of the spear was still stuck in his chest. Damnable beast! Even you want to seek undue advantages. Kelt casually threw away the broken pieces of the lance and slowly pulled out a strange-looking sword. A cold presence suddenly started spreading along the blade as soon as the sword was drawn. Ripples of starlight orbited the sword before spreading outwards. Kelt pointed the sword point at the silver ape. His silver fighting aura instantly fused with the starlight, shooting straight towards the giant silver ape with raging momentum. Han Sha-O was still hiding surreptitiously nearby. Upon seeing Kelt raise the sword, Han Sha-O's consciousness immediately sensed an infinite starry presence that shook his very being. He instantly knew that the sword was absolutely extraordinary. Otherwise it wouldn't have possessed such an enormous exotic hidden atmosphere. The naturally ferocious giant silver ape also felt the same boundless presence, especially when the starlight merged with the silver fighting aura. A mysterious, horrifyingly dangerous feeling of the unknown descended along with a small galaxy that had been created from the fusion of the 2 forces. However, the giant silver ape was so close to getting the magical core of the green dragon as the latter was slowly dying after being heavily injured. The green dragon only needed a single strike to finish it off. Upon seeing the silver fighting aura twinkling with countless starlights drawing near, the giant silver ape blinked his blood-red eyes as if hesitating whether or not he should take the risk. Suddenly the giant silver ape's savage eyes shone brightly. The giant silver ape moved as quick as lightning, attempting to dodge the starry silver fighting are while killing Kelt and excavating the green dragon's magic beast core in one swift move. It won't be that easy to escape, Kelt sneered. He twisted the sword in his hand slightly, suddenly changing the direction of the starry fighting aura in midair. It continued to shoot at the giant silver ape's back at an extremely fast pace. A tragic roar emitted from the giant silver ape's mouth. The starry fighting aura bore more than a dozen bloody holes into his back, each hole overflowing with blood. Greedy beast, how does the divine weapon Starry Sky taste? You want some more? Kelt stood upright on the back of the green dragon as he laughed heartily at the giant silver ape. Divine weapon Starry Sky. Han Sha-O was shocked. He'd initially intended to take this opportunity to make his move, but once again had to restrain himself. Han Sha-O looked at the starry sky in the Sky Rider's grasp. He understood that Kelt being able to injure that tyrannical giant silver ape was all thanks to the strength of the divine weapon. The giant silver ape's bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at the divine artifact in Kelt's hand. He could feel waves of vast cosmic power pulsing from the weapon. Fear gradually crept into the giant silver ape. He let out two low growls and slowly retreated. His speed had been extremely fast just now, yet the divine weapon Starry Sky had still been able to hit him. The giant silver ape possessed extremely high intelligence. He didn't dare to run with his injured back facing Kelt, even if his heart was now filled with a desire to avoid the latter. Despicable human, I shall tear you to pieces. At this moment the golden dragon approached with a roar. He'd transformed into a middle-aged man with a twisted expression as he rushed towards Kelt. Evidently the golden dragon knew that having too large of a body would hold no advantage over Kelt and would instead make him an easier target for the latter. Therefore he switched over to his human form to continue his attacks. As his roar rang out, a golden light shot towards Kelt. The giant silver ape, who'd been about to dodge, quickly darted towards the green dragon like a flash of lightning upon seeing the golden dragon furiously engage in battle with Kelt. However, he'd yet to reach the green dragon when the latter suddenly let out a tragic scream. The giant silver ape landed in front of the green dragon only to find that a big hole had been drilled out of the latter's head. A person shrouded in a black magic shield had harvested the green dragon's core, eyes and horn. Hey, my bad. Everything from the green dragon will belong to me. I advise you to best mind your own business. Han Sha-O laughed heartily as he collected the trophies while wielding the demon slayer edge wreathed in a dense blood light. The giant silver ape was about to disregard everything and draw closer when he suddenly felt the endless murderous intent emitting from the demon slayer edge. There seemed to be tens of thousands of innocent souls crying and screaming from it, instantly ready to drown anyone who dared to come close. Since the divine artifact Starry Sky had left a dozen bloody holes in the giant silver ape's back, the latter had developed an instinctive fear for strange weapons. Not to mention that the surge of murderous intent that exuded from the demon slayer edge wasn't as natural and peaceful like the Starry Sky, but an infinite brutal atmosphere of death and killing. To the giant silver ape, the threat from this kind of atmosphere was even greater than that of Starry Sky. Therefore the giant silver ape could only watch dumbly as Han Sha-O harvested all of the treasures one by one, not daring to take a step forward in his hesitation. Eureka! Kelt was still entangled with the golden dragon when he heard the shrill ghastly screams full of grievances. It seemed that he had very deep feelings for the green dragon. The latter's tragic death was a huge blow to him. Distraction was an enormous taboo in a fight. Kelt's distraction gave the golden dragon an opening as the latter flattened Kelt's sturdy armor. Kelt retreated hurriedly as he had been injured, two streaks of blood flowing from the corners of his mouth. He coldly looked at Han Sha-O, who stood above the green dragon's head, and let out a low shout, "Whoever you are, I will make your life worse than death." As his words sounded out, Kelt screamed out with all of his resentment and grief before turning to escape. He knew that he couldn't hold any advantage against three enemies from all sides, even with the Starry Sky in his hand. Particularly for Han Sha-O, whose appearance was hidden, Kelt couldn't predict this new enemy's strength at all. Therefore he had to flee despite the unwillingness that filled his heart. If the weeds aren't pulled out from their roots, they'll grow back at spring's breeze. Since it's like that, don't blame me for being ruthless. Having finished excavating all of the treasures from the green dragon's body, Han Sha-O spontaneously mumbled before turning to the salivating giant silver ape, "The rest is for you." A beam of black light abruptly shot up into the sky. The beam chased Kelt together with the golden dragon, intending to take advantage of Kelt's injuries to finish him off as to not leave behind endless trouble. After Han Sha-O left, the giant silver ape let out a low growl and instantly jumped on the green green dragon's corpse. He started eating the dragon's meat and brain. Even though these things weren't as nutritious as the core, they would still increase the giant's silver ape's strength by a little bit. Kelt fled in Cassil's direction. He would never have expected that so many experts were lurking deep within the dark forest. He and the green dragon should have been unimpeded. In the end, the green dragon was miserably dead whilst Kelt was heavily wounded. To him, the lofty commander of the Redbud Knights, this was simply an unacceptable fact. He dominated the continent for many years and had rarely experienced the taste of failure. He was truly angered right now. Etching the figure enveloped in that black halo into his mind as he escaped, Kelt was already planning about how to use the power of the Redbud Knights to catch the person who killed Uraka and slice him into a million pieces. Despicable human, let's fight to the death. The golden dragon's loud roar carried along the path. He was determined to kill Kelt, but it was a pity that his body was no longer able to bear the injuries that he had taken. Not only were his roars becoming much weaker, but his speed gradually slowed and his mind grew dizzy due to the profound loss of blood. If he hadn't been the strongest member of the Golden Dragon tribe, he would have collapsed long ago. For him to be able to hold on until now made him truly worthy of the title of strongest amongst the dragon race. Since you wish to die, reptile, then I shall fulfill your wish. Kelt had run the distance. Upon seeing that the golden dragon was becoming increasingly weaker but still chased him, Kelt couldn't help but screech to a stop due to his extremely bad mood. Starry sky burst out again with its orbiting brilliant constellations. The starry light spots created a beautiful luster amidst the silver fighting aura. The vast celestial presence once again spread out slowly to encompass the incoming golden dragon. Last time the golden dragon had assaulted Kelt so suddenly that he simply hadn't given the latter any time to use his divine weapon. The golden dragon had taken advantage of Kelt's distraction to strike him. Now that the divine artifact had displayed its full power, the golden dragon suddenly became somber upon seeing the galaxy spread out. However, it was too late to dodge. The golden dragon was flying forward at a speed so fast that it was difficult to stop. He could only utilize all of his power to barely change direction, attempting to clear the area that was shrouded in the starry fighting aura. A sharp shrill whistle suddenly rang out at this moment. A streak of black light zigzagged like a snake to suddenly appear a dozen meters away in front of Kelt. Kelt had been looking coldly at the heavily injured golden dragon when he suddenly saw the sharp tip of the black light rapidly closing in on him. Frightened out of his wits, Kelt hastily withdrew the starry fighting aura. The fighting aura that had been shooting at the golden dragon once again made a miraculous 180-degree turn to shoot straight at the black light instead. Chapter 323, Leaving Behind an Ear Crackle. Pop. The starry nebulae which dotted the fighting aura transformed into a dark ray, fusing with the Demon Slayer Edge. The formerly black and matte Demon Slayer Edge suddenly exploded with a pillar of bloody light, the fearsome killing intent condensing into clouds of bloody mist with thin red lightning crackling within. The divine weapon in Kelt's hand, Starry Sky, suddenly flew out from his hand, abruptly landing in the glow of clustered nebulae within the blood cloud. With little spots of cold light flaring from its body, it continuously clashed with the bloodthirsty Demon Slayer Edge. The two battling weapons gave off an aura of violence. Within the multicolored light, increasingly loud explosions echoed, causing nearby plants and animals to be knocked over by the sounds before the undulations spreading towards other areas. Han Shao remained hidden in the dark, feeling all of his magical yuan surging towards the wild Demon Slayer Edge. The greatly worried Han Shao immediately sat down, cross-legged, circulating his magical yuan as he tried to provide more power for the Demon Slayer Edge to utilize. Kelt moaned painfully, his veins popping out of his forehead. The fighting aura in his body ravaged his wounds as it continually circulated, causing Kelt to spit out another mouthful of blood. The golden dragon had originally thought that it would be impossible to escape. He was unable to react for a moment when he saw the starry fighting aura engage in combat with a blood-red weapon. The dragon sat staring distractedly at the light-strewn skies, slowly starting to feel that the blood-red weapon looked a bit familiar. It's that man, that lunatic. After staring for a while, the golden dragon finally remembered and cried out in surprise. Rumble. The sky rumbled as if there were thunder, with the sound of a large explosion ripping past. Rays of light crisscrossed through the magnificent sky, and the divine weapon Starry Sky turned tail and retreated back towards Kelt. Kelt was actually kneeling on the ground at this very moment. It looked like he'd expended too much fighting aura in too short an amount of time. He was quivering like a leaf, seeming to be suffering from an epileptic fit. The blood flowing from the corners of his mouth became white foam. He looked like he could collapse at any moment. "I will kill you." The golden dragon finally found his opportunity. Not thinking carefully about why Han Shao had appeared, he madly charged towards Kelt. Kelt could barely stand. He had been weakened to a critical point. Seeing the blood-covered golden dragon charging towards him, Kelt used his trembling hands to throw out a magical scroll. The life-saving scroll transformed into a massive silver light wrapping around Kelt and releasing strong magical pulses. "Crap! It's another priceless spatial magic scroll." Han Shao cursed under his breath, his attention calmly focused as he manipulated the demon slayer edge that was flying straight towards Kelt's neck. Consumed by the flash of dazzling light, Kelt let out a mournful screech. Large undulations rippled through the area as if it had been ripped in half. By the time it calmed down, Kelt's body had vanished without a trace, only leaving left ear on the ground. When the golden dragon arrived, the only thing he found was Kelt's left ear. He didn't find anything else apart from this. Even Han Shao's demon slayer edge had been recalled into his body after that single strike. "Kill me. I just hope that after you kill me you'll also kill off that despicable human." Standing at the place where Kelt once stood, the golden dragon reached out and picked up Kelt's ear, shouting at his surroundings while stuffing it into his mouth. In the dark forest, strength determined everything. In the cruel dark forest, the strongest gained everything while the weakest didn't even have the right to live. Such were the rules tacitly agreed upon between the super-ranked magical beasts and the humans. The golden dragon had reached its weakest point now. Without a space magic scroll to save its life, and having already witnessed Han Shao's unfeeling ferocity, it correctly predicted that Han Shao would treat him as another animal of prey and kill him. This was why he had said these words. "Kelt's loss of an ear won't affect his strength at all. This time he only exhausted his fighting aura and sustained a few injuries. When I was fighting with him, not only did he recognize my weapon, but he also managed to perceive my presence. I've already detected that Kelts has met up with the Redbud Knights. We now have a common enemy, so I think killing you wouldn't be the wisest idea." Han Shao slowly walked out of the shade and spoke calmly to the golden dragon. Seeing that the golden dragon had become quiet, Han Shao continued to speak. "Besides, I feel like you're a dragon whom I should befriend. I highly admire your bravery and dedication. As such, I feel that making a friend like you is far more valuable than your magical beast core. Thank you. You have won the respect and friendship of me, the golden dragon Cedric." As per the etiquette of the dragon race, golden dragon Cedric expressed the highest level of respect toward Han Shao. "Cedric, I feel that your best course of action right now is to properly tend to your wounds. That despicable knight called Kelt will definitely not let us off after regrouping with the Redbud Knights. However, the dark forest is very large, so it shouldn't be a problem for the two of us to disappear. On the contrary, their group is large and easy to discover. When your wounds have healed, we can work together to deal with them." This golden dragon trembled every time he tried to speak. Han Shao could see that he would collapse at a moment's notice. Since that was the case, Han Shao had offered this thought to Cedric after mulling the situation over. "I shall return to my race. After I recover a bit, I'll bring my fellow dragon warriors and kill every one of those despicable ambushers who dared to offend me." The golden dragon bowed solemnly. He then respectfully spoke to Han Shao once more. "There is a dragon valley located in the deepest parts of the dark forest. In the future, be it you or your sons and descendants, if you ever need me, Cedric, you can always come to the Dragon Valley to find me. I apologize, I really can't endure it any longer. I'll be taking my leave now." As if he were afraid of Han Shao reneging on his promise, Cedric managed to force out a friendly smile after saying these words. He transformed back into his draconic form, flying towards the deepest recesses of the dark forest. It seemed like his injuries really weren't light. He probably wouldn't be able to recover anytime soon. Mature dragons of the dragon race would usually leave the Dragon Valley and occupy a mountain or river, gradually building their wealth over the long course of their evolution. Some dragons preferred to live alone while others preferred to live in groups. Han Shao had learned a little about the Dragon Valley from some of the Dark Mandel's intelligence reports, but had never gone there to explore himself. The golden dragon Cedric had actually come from the Dragon Valley. It seems like his influence wasn't wasn't something to sneeze at. The reason why Han Shao had let Cedric go was because he wanted to use the dragon's power against Kelt, though he would never have thought that he had come from the Dragon Valley. Han Shao thought that since Cedric had been able to leave alive if Kelt didn't quickly leave the Dark Forest and a group of dragons from the Dragon Valley found him, then one of the continent's 10 great troop of knights, the Redbud Knights, would vanish forever. With the commander of the Redbud Knights lying injured along with the disappearance of Fire Grand Magus Marso, this time's plan of looting of the underground world would likely be seriously delayed. After following the trail of and discovering the Redbud Knights, Han Shao discovered that the Redbud Knights had been prevented from making good time. Everyone was frantically converging on the central tent tending to Kelt's injuries. The central tent was surrounded by rows of knights with a few powerful mages setting up magic boundaries in the vicinity. Han Shao hid in the shadows observing them, realizing that it was impossible to assassinate Kelt at this time. Even the ground beneath Kelt had become as hard as steel due to the effects of the boundaries. When the Earth Elite zombie returned after failing to penetrate the enchantment, Han Shao immediately gave up on this idea. Seeing the Redbud Knights set up camp seemingly wanting to bring Kelt's injuries under control first, Han Shao understood that their planned raid on the underworld would be suspended until further notice. After observing for a bit longer, Han Shao spotted the traitor Druid Casil returning without any accomplishments. Both his hands were empty and his face held an expression full of ire. It was obvious that he had failed to catch Cecilia and Emily. Only after seeing this did Han Shao truly relax. He didn't stick around, flying straight towards the Cemetery of Death. Han Shao spent a night resting at the Cemetery of Death, then used the transportation matrix the next day to return to the City Lord's residence in Bretel City. Walking out from the secret chamber in the City Lord's residence, Han Shao was deeply moved by the profoundness of magic. Yesterday he'd been thousands of kilometers away in the dark forest struggling for his life. He'd appeared here after using the transportation matrix, skipping a long journey and arriving with a thought. Even the technologically unparalleled Earth couldn't accomplish this, but this magic and martial skill wielding profound continent could. After leaving Bretel City for a couple of days, Han Shao suddenly remembered his prisoner Helentina. He happened to recall that Helentina hadn't eaten anything for 2 days. The secret prison in the City Lord's residence had never really been used to lock people up. After Han Shao tied up Helentina and threw her in there, he hadn't even told anyone about her. As such, he believed that nobody had brought her any food. Han Shao rushed towards the prison to take a look when he remembered. He found Helentina with a pale complexion and sallow cheeks, belly deflating and rumbling continuously as if there was a bird constantly calling. Sure enough, Helentina had been starved pretty badly over these 2 days. Had Han Shao returned any later, it was likely that this enchanting beauty would have starved to death. Chapter 324, Blackmailed. Demon, just kill me. No need to humiliate me like this. The weakly starving beauty spoke in a weak voice upon seeing Han Shao approach. She wanted to put on a fierce front but didn't have the slightest bit of energy to do so. Even just talking alone had exhausted all of her strength. I'm very sorry. These past 2 days I had to go out for something but forgot to instruct my people to bring you food. This time Han Shao was genuinely embarrassed. This time, he explained with all sincerity as he looked at Helentina. Helentina had been barely able to mouth a few words. When she heard Han Shao explain, she pointed her finger at him, her pale lips trembling as if wanting to say something. However, whether she was too hungry or angry, she actually fainted without another word. AI mages are truly fragile, unable to hold up after 2 days of hunger. Seeing Helentina fall unconscious, Han Shao spoke with a sigh and involuntarily shook his head. He'd forgotten that last time along the way he'd brought Helentina back, he'd only let her eat 1 meal during those 2 days. She'd been locked up in Bretel City for 2 more days, meaning it had been 4 days in total since Han Shao had captured her. For Helentina, who'd eaten only 1 meal on the way here, for her to still be alive, her body was already much better than that of an ordinary mage's. Han Shao hauled Helentina up and carried her out of the cell. He handed her over to the 2 maids in the City Lord's mansion with the following instructions: prepare some food for her, Wait until she recovers before putting her back into the cell. The two maids looked at Helentina's pale face in shock, then turned to Han-Sha-Oh with a strange gaze before withdrawing with the unconscious Helentina in trepidation. When they had completely cleared the room, the two foolish maids started chattering in a low voice as they thought that Han-Sha-Oh couldn't hear them talk. 2 days. The city lord disappeared for 2 days. I can't believe that he ravaged a beautiful woman until she's this weak. The city lord is really a brutal, perverted evil demon! 2 days in a row. How could the city lord hold up? No wonder he could kill all of those hateful bandits. His endurance is terrifying. Poor woman, she must have been so devastated being ravaged for 2 days. Yeah, you see how haggard she is. I can't believe she's become like this in just 2 days. The two maids whispered as they went, Han-Sha-Oh's sensitive hearing having involuntarily caught all of their conversation. He was torn between laughter and tears, his eyelashes constantly trembling. Han-Sha-Oh wanted to explain but didn't know where to start. After roughly half an hour, Falk arrived along with Dick and Chester after hearing the news. The three stood before Han-Sha-Oh looking at him somewhat strangely. Falk was a true knight, so he didn't say anything. The one in charge of the Dark Mantle here, Dick, was a subordinate, so he kept silent all the same. However, Chester had long been familiar with Han-Sha-Oh, so he had no reservations between the two. He complimented with a slight smile upon arriving, "My lord is really intense, all right. I only knew about your powerful martial skills before. Only now do I know that not only your martial art is superb, your other aspect is even more terrifying. 2 days, my gosh, 2 days in a row. This little one has no words to describe my admiration for you." Falk and Dick seemed to share the same thought as they nodded solemnly at Chester's words. "The good-for-nothing," Dick even exclaimed with a deep sigh, "comparisons really will be the death of people. I utterly concede." Han-Sha-Oh's brows jumped constantly at their words. He suppressed his anger before opening his mouth to explain to his so-called three subordinates, "The truth isn't like what you've imagined. Don't listen to the drivel of those servants. I only left that prisoner hungry for 2 days. You guys shouldn't think nonsense." The three dirty-minded fellows didn't believe a word. However, as subordinates, they naturally understood the need to maintain some dignity in the surface. Therefore they earnestly nodded, admitting that they had misunderstood, saying that the Lord wasn't that kind of person. But their eyes was filled with envy and admiration. They obviously didn't believe Han-Sha-Oh's explanation. "This woman is Grand Duke Helentina of the Helen Duchy. Has anyone come to negotiate with you guys for her release over the past 2 days? Seeing the three refused to believe him, Han-Sha-Oh had to reveal Helentina's identity, inwardly wondering if they would believe him now. "What? My lord, you actually dared to eat even Grand Duke Helen of the Helen Duchy?" Chester blurted out without thought. Falk and Dick's expression abruptly changed. Dick was especially solemn as he said loudly, "My lord, we're in big trouble this time. I think Bretel City will face crazy retaliation from 2 other Grand Duchies. Once people know that this poisonous beauty is in your hands, many from the 7 Grand Duchies will become interested in Bretel City again. There'll naturally be a solution for any troubles that come. What are you afraid of? If the 7 Grand Duchies dare to come, they will be just in time to taste our magic crystal cannons." All 6 magic crystal cannons have been installed at the city's wall. Any duchy that wants to invade the Bretel City will have to pay with their blood. Falk was indeed obsessed with battle. He coldly snorted with an air of arrogance. Stopping for a bit, Falk suddenly thought of something as his expression somewhat changed. He turned to speak to Han-Sha-Oh, "But if the 7 Grand Duchies attack repeatedly, our supply of magic crystal ores will be far from enough. Once it's not enough for our operations, it's simply impossible to resist the attacks from the 7 Grand Duchies with the Bretel City's current defenses." Magic crystal ores were formed by nature. They could be used for refining various magic equipment and were needed in some transportation matrices as well as magic weapons. Magic crystal ores were different from creatures' cores. The energy within the former couldn't be directly absorbed by human or beasts and could only be used via tools. As for the creatures' cores, the majority of them could be directly absorbed by magic creatures, while a few could be absorbed by human who had the same kind of element. Therefore creatures' cores were more valuable than magic crystal ores. Even though creature cores were more precious, most of them could couldn't be used as a source to operate transportation matrices or magic crystal cannons. Magic crystal ores were needed to run magic crystal cannons. It looks like we need to pay attention to the harvest of magic crystal ores in the underground world. Han Shao-Oh's mind spun quickly with the information about the different uses of creature cores and magic crystal ores as he whispered to himself. My lord is truly a man of courage. You knew full well that she was Valentina, yet still dared to lock and ravage her for 2 whole days. I'm in awe of your spirit that is fearless of any pressure or threat. Dick exclaimed sincerely. It looked like these 3 perverts had determined that Han Shao had nailed Valentina no matter what he said. Han Shao was too lazy to say anything else in the end. He turned to give orders to Falk. Use all of the gold coins I brought back defending of Bretel City. I will make the people of Helen Duchy ransom 1,000,000 gold coins for Valentina. If they come report to me. Han Shao no longer pay any heed to the flattery of these 3 perverts after he gave his orders. He returned to his room in the mansion waiting for the 2 maids to bring Valentina back. The 2 maids slowly brought the weak-looking Valentina to Han Shao's room after half an hour. Valentina's mental strength had been confined while she herself had been left hungry for quite a long time. She probably wouldn't even be able to beat a maid in her current state. It was simply impossible for her to escape from the city lord's mansion. Valentina put all thoughts of escape to rest and meekly let the 2 maids lead her. Valentina's face now had some color to it after eating some food and drinking some water. She didn't need to lean on the 2 maids anymore. Her bright eyes full of hatred as she glared at Han Shao, her gentle voice instantly ringing out curses. You crude despicable necromancer, I can't believe you dared to treat me like that. Even if you are an insidious evil necromancer, you should know that abusing prisoners deserves everyone's spittle. My lord, if you have no other orders, we will be taking our leave now. The 2 maids turned their eyes away and lifted their heads to look at Han Shao with fear. One of them pleaded in a low voice. The 2 maids was already regarding Han Shao as an abusive pervert in their hearts. Their voices trembled, eyes looking at him full of fear like lambs facing a wolf. Go. Speak no more nonsense from now on. Han Shao swept a cold glance at the 2 maids as he spoke frostily. The 2 maids were so scared that they went soft at the knees, trembling as they nodded in agreement. Neither of them dared to lift their heads. After a while, seeing as Han Shao had no intention to punish them, the 2 maids left the room in shock and fear. This time they left without daring to say a word. It seems Han Shao's deterrence had begun to take effect. Waiting until the 2 maids left, Han Shao opened his mouth to speak to the furious Valentina. My apologies that you were starved for 2 days because of my negligence, but I really didn't do it on purpose. I truly only forgot. Han Shao took out her space ring and handed it back before carrying on. All right, I've returned your space ring to you. I think this kind of situation won't happen again next time. Valentina's pretty eyes glared bitterly at Han Shao, uncontrollable hatred still remaining on her face after she recovered her space ring. However, she obviously understood that she had no capital to make a fuss since she was a prisoner. After rolling her eyes at Han Shao for a while, Valentina finally let out a light sigh and said in a soft tone, if you think you can use me to threaten the Helen Duchy, I think your wish won't be fulfilled. 4 days have passed already. The Helen Duchy likely hasn't sent anyone with 1,000,000 gold coins for my release. How about this? My space ring still has 400,000 gold coins. If you release me, I'll give you these gold coins, alright? Han Shao sat there on the chair stroking his chin as he stared fixedly at Valentina. He opened his mouth after a bit of pondering. Don't worry, I'll wait for some more time and see how it goes. If it's really as you've said, I can discuss conditions with you again. No. If I don't return to the Helen Duchy in a short period of time, it will definitely fall into civil strife. As time drags on, it'll be useless for me to return to the Helen Duchy anymore. Valentina's tone became urgent as she immediately responded. That has nothing to do with me. You are the Grand Duke of Helen Duchy. You're absolutely worth 1,000,000 gold coins. Hey, 400,000 gold coins is really a bit too little. I'll be taking a huge loss if I just simply let you go like that. I don't care if your duchy has civil unrest. Will corpses pile up everywhere just because of civil strife? Don't expect to leave my place without handing over 1,000,000 gold coins. Crossing his legs and leisurely looking at Helentina's urgent posture, Han Sha-O slowly replied with a smile. You demon from hell. The 6 magic crystal cannons is worth 1,000,000 gold coins. Is your greed truly that bottomless? Helentina's face flushed red in fury. Her body staggered as if she wanted to fall down in a faint. The longer the time is dragged out, the more it'll be detrimental for you. I see you obviously don't have enough gold coins on you. I'm not an unreasonable person either. How about this? Write me a note. Bring the remaining 600,000 gold coins to me within 3 months after you return to your duchy. Han Sha-O squinted at Helentina, waiting until she vented all of her rage before opening his mouth to speak one more. You greedy pig, you'll get what's coming to you! Helentina screamed in fury. Alright then, you can just keep screaming here and wait for your Helen duchy fall into chaos. Hey, I have something to attend to and won't keep you company. Han Sha-O stood up calmly, seemingly not taking Helentina's screaming in his eyes as he leisurely walked to the door. You evil demon, great evil demon. I'll agree. The noisy Helentina finally yielded and screamed hysterically when Han Sha-O had almost walked out the door. Isn't it good to agree early? Your body is so weak, screaming loudly is not good for your health. Han Sha-O laughed heartily. He promptly took out a contract, making Helentina fingerprint and sign it, finally placing down a magical brand. Chapter 325, Lack of manpower. The clouds were a fiery red in the sunset, refreshing gentle breezes blowing happily through people's hearts. All of the potholes and scars in Bretel City had been fixed during this period of reparation. The main city gates had 2 huge magic crystal cannons stationed at them. They shone a faint red halo under the sunset, seemingly ready to spit out enormous flames at any moment. Helentina was currently standing in front of the city gates after having been forced to sign the contract. She looked up at the 2 magic crystal cannons that had originally belonged to her, unsure what to feel. Han Sha-O stood on the city's walls, smiling merrily as he held the contracts aloft and waved goodbye. Dear Honorable Duke Helentina, we won't be seeing you off. Helentina inwardly gave 18 generations of Han Sha-O's ancestors a good cursing. However, she was worried that rebellion that could break out any time in her Helen duchy. Having recovered her mental strength, she slowly floated up using levitation skills. Her shining eyes glared fiercely at Han Sha-O as she gritted her teeth and lowered her voice. Great evil demon, I'll definitely be back for revenge. Have a safe journey. Remember that you have to pay back the gold coins you owe me in 3 months. Han Sha-O beamed radiantly, waving the contract in his hand as if telling Helentina not to try to weasel her way out of her debt. HMPH. Helentina turned her head angrily. She transformed into a fiery shadow, slowly flying towards the direction of Helen Duchy. The fiery shadow looked like a rainbow across the horizon beneath the sunset. My lord is truly too evil. Not only did he take this poisonous beauty, he even extorted a huge amount of gold coins, truly eating people down to the bones. Chester shook his head emotionally, his eyes looking at Han Sha-O full of worship. I didn't think Helentina was this beautiful. No wonder Benedict of the Narsen Duchy is so obsessed with her. A pity, ah, a pity. He definitely wouldn't expect that our lord was one step ahead to pluck this flower. Dick chuckled at the pain of others making malicious speculations about how ugly the situation would be after Benedict learned of this. Your lordship, I think that with her malevolence, Helentina definitely won't be willing to let this go after she leaves. HMPH. If she spreads the news about our Bretel City extorting 400,000 gold coins from her, I think it will give rise the greed of the 7 Grand Duchies. Falk approached Han Sha-O, saying worriedly as he watched Helentina depart. Han Sha-O looked at the red clouds spread throughout the sky, silently frowning for a bit. He then casted his eyes at the blurry outlines of the mountain ranges around Bretel City. He told Dick to send people to the surrounding mountains, asked the leaders of the mountain people to pay a visit to Bretel City. Just tell them that I invite them for a meal. My lord, because the former city lord lords were all incompetent and mediocre leaders. They couldn't help the mountain people resist the bandits. So the mountain people have never harbored any good impression, let alone respect for the city lord. I can pass the news to them, but I'm afraid that they won't come out of contempt. Dick revealed a difficult expression and explained to Han Shao after some hesitation. Now is different from the past. Vulcan of Mount Talai will come for certain. If he informs the others beforehand, the other leaders will know of our strength. I think they'll be willing to come. Hey, the past is the past, the present is the present. The entire Bretel city is my territory. They're all my people. If these people really can't tell good from bad, then I will make them know how to respect a city lord. Han Shao said to Dick in a neither fast nor slow manner. Nodding his head, Dick promised, all right then, I will definitely notify them. Dick was also a mountain man. He had already had contact and even secretly maintained a good relationship with the people in the surrounding mountains before Han Shao had arrived in Bretel City. He'd had no hope in Han Shao originally. Now that he'd witnessed the knowledge power as well as the schemes of the latter, Dick understood that his stubborn people would definitely eat a bitter loss if they provoked Han Shao. Therefore Dick was determined to persuade those stubborn fellows to come as soon as he heard Han Shao's words. He didn't want any of those people to die at the hands of Han Shao's undead army. After Dick left, Han Shao said to Falk, use the gold coins we have to arm and power up the entire city with everything we've got. War chariots, catapults, soil goblin missiles, etc. As for equipment, I have entrusted some merchant guilds to transport them here. What you have to do is tell the masons to reinforce any fragile areas of the city's walls. Make it taller in areas where it isn't tall enough. Your lordship, the craftsmen have already increased their overtime to do these things. What we lack the most now are soldiers with sufficient combat effectiveness. Bretel City has suffered through many battles with devastating effects from fire. The total population in our city is only 50,000 or so. This is really miserably few compared to some big cities of millions. The number of young people is even fewer. We have been conscripting men through providing enormous temptation in recent periods, but have only recruited 200 or so. The number of our people is far from enough. Bretel City is so big that it's simply impossible to protect all four gates with only roughly 3,000 soldiers in the city. Even if we have strong firepower, we still need people to operate it. If the problem of the population can't be resolved, I think Bretel City will still remain in this half-dead atmosphere. Falk was indeed a knight who'd been tempered by the fires of war. He only took one glance to point out what the city lacked the most, which was also its current biggest weakness. This was truly a difficult problem. Han Shao also knew that what Bretel City lacked the most was people, but he didn't have a proper method to solve it. Bretel City had always been in the midst of war and had become a hell on earth due to the number of departing citizens throughout so many years. Even ordinary citizens of other cities might not be willing to migrate to the Bretel City, not to mention the natives who had left. The first thing Han Shao could do now was secure the safety of the city before gradually turning to expansion of other aspects. He then could slowly attract people from other cities to inhabit Bretel City through good security conditions that are beneficial to their development. However, this wouldn't be an overnight process. It required quite a long transition period. At least the pillaging and threats from the 7 Grand Duchies had to be halted before the Bretel City could slowly prove to outsiders that it was safe. Only then would fear and panic be dispelled. I know this is indeed our biggest problem. We temporarily have no way to attract new residents. However, as long as we can stop the pillaging of the 7 Grand Duchies and spread the news that the Bretel City is safe, some original inhabitants missing their hometown might be willing to come back. We will tackle this problem from multiple angles. I think Bretel City will be much more bustling sooner or later. First, about the lack of staff and soldiers, we can start from the mountain people in the surrounding mountains. This is why I've invited them to the city. I heard from Dick that there are 30-40,000 of them, of which around 10,000 have the ability to fight. If we can firmly grasp and use this force, in addition to being equipped with 6 advanced magic crystal cannons and a sturdy city wall, our odds of successfully blocking the invasions of the 7 Grand Duchies will be much higher. Han Shao had considered this issue early on. He explained explained himself leisurely regarding why he'd invited the mountain people. "If my lord has made careful considerations already, then I will say no more. On the other hand, young Master Lawrence will soon send over several talents who are knowledgeable in city and financial management. The military of Bretel City is also getting on track," Fox said respectfully. Nodding his head, Han Sha-o said non-committally, "For the time being these things are under your arrangements." At the present there were hundreds of things are waiting to be done in Bretel City. All kinds of talents were greatly lacking. Lawrence's arrangements of talented military and political personnel would indeed play an important role. However, since they were arranged by Lawrence, it would be difficult to remove them once these military and political talents officially took control. If this situation was left to develop as it would if Han Sha-o still continued to use Lawrence's people, then this subconscious infiltration would slowly turn Bretel City into Lawrence's territory. Han Sha-o was now much more mature than in the past and understood clearly this drawback clearly. Unfortunately, he didn't have any of his own people to use at the moment. He also temporarily couldn't identify if Lawrence's help was out of good intentions or other purposes. What Han Sha-o currently lacked the most was manpower, so he could only leave things as they were. However, Han Sha-o had started thinking for the future and was seriously considering using his own trusted people. Be it developing or discovering these people, neither were simple matter. He slowly walked to his room with this idea in mind. Staying in the city lord's mansion for 2 days, Han Sha-o monitored the progress of enhancing the city's defense facilities during the day and tirelessly practicing demonic cultivation and necromancy magic at night. However, breakthroughs in cultivation became harder the more he progressed, and there were many gains to be had in his boring regular day-to-day practices. On the other hand, since his mental strength was at the Grand Magus rank, his grasp over necromancy magic actually made rapid progress. Therefore Han Sha-o put more effort into studying necromancy magic. Using the secret chamber in the city lord's mansion, he could easily transport to the cemetery of death, the most perfect training grounds for necromancers. Not only the scent of death here, since this place even had plenty of magic tools and laboratory. Han Sha-o stayed here alone every night and captured some live magic beasts to practice a spell soul tremor. For a demonic practitioner at the separate demon realm like Han Sha-o, their soul had become the even more mysterious consciousness which possessed some truly wondrous uses. Based on his study of the soul in addition to his memory of demonic magic, Han Sha-o gradually felt that there was a link between the understanding of the soul in necromancy and the changes in the consciousness in his demonic cultivation. Especially at this realm, the consciousness had miraculous abilities to sense the presence of all creatures in the surroundings, to create illusions and implant magical brands on the soul, and seemed to be able to communicate with the magic elements that existed everywhere in this world. Han Sha-o suddenly had a whim to consider if it was also possible to integrate demonic cultivation and magical training so they could complement each other. However, this wonderful idea was still extremely difficult to implement with Han Sha-o's current situation because his knowledge had yet to reach true proficiency in any field. There would be a long process of exploration if he wanted to master the two aspects. It seemed this wouldn't be able to be applied for a short while. This spell soul tremor used the consciousness to attack the opponent's soul. Han Sha-o had experimented it on living magic creatures over the past 2 days. Moreover, he had certain reflections in some areas of using the mind to attack, gradually grasping some key parts of this spell in 2 days. Han Sha-o walked out from the cemetery of death on the 3rd day. Bathing under the warm sunshine, he felt a very leisurely pleasure. While he was checking on the progress of the city, Dick ran out from an unknown location to Han Sha-o's side and said respectfully, "My lord, I have sent out the invitations according to your orders." The 5 mountain leaders on the surrounding mountains all agreed to come to Bretel City 7 days later. Smiling lightly, Han Sha-o looked at Dick deeply before finally saying, "Dick, you are also a mountain man. I know that you wouldn't let me down if I placed this in your charge. But of course, otherwise with your methods all the leaders who didn't come would definitely meet with some accidents. I didn't want to become the villain of my people." Dick thought inwardly, his expression still respectful as he said smilingly, "My lord has gained the mountain people's trust after you exterminated the Redbeard bandits. I think they'll be coming here with hearts full of hope, perhaps with more fear than not." Ha ha. Han Sha-o laughed heartily with Dick. How could he not know what these people wanted to do? Dick had said all that needed to be said, and so they they naturally knew what to do. They actually are a bit afraid. Hey, Dick answered with a laugh. He looked into Han Sha'o's eyes and felt as if the latter knew the thoughts in his mind. Dick involuntarily felt scared in his heart.